So I've always wanted to do a little bit of a snow show. Maybe I have a chance right now. Didn't think I'd have a chance to in the spring, but it is still falling here at Shaver Lake. And we're going to talk about the 49ers tight end room because this is one where they definitely need to stock up between now and the start of the regular season. Maybe in free agency, maybe in the draft, maybe both. But right now, I only have two guys projected to make the 53-man roster in the 49ers tight end room, and that's George Kittle and Braden Willis. Cam Latu, he dropped so many passes in training camp last year before he had the knee surgery that I cannot in good faith project him to the 53 at this moment. Now, guys have developed. Aaron Banks was unplayable in year one, developed over the course of year one, except that he wasn't on IR over the course of year one. But guys have developed heading into year two. Sometimes it's just a matter of mental adjustment over the course of that first 365 days as a rookie. So maybe Cam Latu is able to take that third spot. But the fact of the matter is that the 49ers have consistently carried four tight ends on the 53-man roster under Kyle Shanahan. So that's where you have to start thinking about how are they going to bolster this room to make sure that it's ready to go next season. CJ Uzomah is still out there, veteran out of Auburn. He's been in the league for several years, so you might still be able to look at him. Robert Tonyan Jr., that's one of George Kittle's friends, used to play for the Packers, had the ACL tear a couple years ago, but I think he's over that now. He might still be a possibility for the 49ers. So you look at a couple veterans. You also could look at some of the rookies. There's Jatavian Sanders out of Texas. He's a player that's going to be a higher end, obviously, rookie. That's somebody that the 49ers might decide to use slightly more valuable draft capital on. I've talked a lot about Ben Sinnott out of Kansas State as a potential H-back, somebody who might be able to be a successor to Kyle Juszczyk at the fullback position, but has played tight end in college. Cade Stover out of Ohio State, that's another name. It's not as good of a tight end class as last year, but it definitely is one that the 49ers can use to try to get that third or fourth tight end, somebody developmentally who potentially can even give them a shot at that fullback position moving forward. Because Kyle Juszczyk's snaps have been going down season by season. So I think the offense I don't want to say that it's going to phase out that fullback position, but I think it's moving more and more to a tight end oriented position where they're adaptable. Guys can move from spot to spot, but they're basing it more on receiving ability. Now, out of all the guys that I just mentioned, none of them's a unicorn like George Kittle. That's what made George Kittle so special, though, is the fact that he ran a 4.5 coming out of Iowa. These other guys, even the elite tight ends out of Texas, out of Ohio State, these guys are running 4.7 40s. These guys aren't running 4.5 like George Kittle. You can't just, find a guy that runs a 4.5 in the fifth round every single year. You can't find it. That probably was the only time in NFL draft history that the 49ers were able to find somebody like George Kittle so low in the draft. And there's just an exceptional set of circumstances. It was because he played for Iowa. Iowa doesn't like to use the tight ends in the pass game. They used them in the blocking game. That was before the 49ers and Shanahan had revolutionized the way that the NFL plays football, right? I mean, this new wave of adaptable skill position players, that really started with the 49ers in 2017, and George Kittle is still around. In fact, to make room for the rest of the moves, the 49ers have restructured George Kittle's contract. That opened up $10 million of 2024 space, and it's yet another double down on George Kittle. I don't understand why this guy has so many detractors in the 49ers' own community, right? When you see people talking about the team. But so many people are so quick to want to cut George Kittle. Anytime that we have one of these roster builders that I put up there, people just want to cut George Kittle. People say, oh, this is the last year for George Kittle. I said, no, this guy's in all likelihood going to play out the entirety of his contract. I've been saying that throughout the whole time because his best football came last year. He's been the best blocking tight end for a long time. I think you can make the case that he's the best receiving tight end. The 49ers just don't use him as prolifically as somebody like Kansas City uses Travis Kelce in the receiving game. But it's been very clear to me that between his adaptability and his attitude, and the 49ers love his attitude. They love the vibe that he brings, not only on the field, but also in the locker room. I think it's been very clear to me that they've wanted to keep this guy around as long as possible, as long as he stays healthy, and he has stayed healthy. I mean, the past two seasons, the availability has been very good for George Kittle, and it just goes back to the fact that he is a unique specimen of a player. The 4.5 40, the top-end receiving abilities. I was watching the highlights of the game at Jacksonville yesterday when Brock Purdy was throwing that football out of the bunker on the deep pass to Kittle where the DB fell down, so he's able to walk into the end zone. I mean, you don't send any other tight end on a go route on the sideline. I mean, he's exceptionally fast, and he is a great core piece of that room, but they have to fortify it. And they drafted 2 guys last year in Latu and Braden Willis to try to do that. I think Braden Willis has come along nicely as far as blocking goes, to the point where the 49ers trusted him. They obviously lost Charlie Werner. I don't think anybody with the 49ers saw Charlie getting $12 million from the Atlanta Falcons. And he was a good special teams piece, and he was a good blocker. But the fact of the matter is that he had only a handful of catches over his 4 years with the 49ers. 49ers only have a handful of catches from the tight end position outside of George Kittle over the past few years. And I think Kyle Shanahan has really badly wanted to add that second receiving threat to the tight end room. I think that's been a dead set focus of his for a while, but they just haven't been able to make it come to fruition. They even drafted those 2 guys, in Braden Willis and Cam Latu last year, but obviously Latu hasn't panned out yet, and Braden Willis isn't a pass-catching threat yet. So to see if the 49ers try to do that, either through a mix of veterans and rookies this year, if you try to go get somebody like Uzomah or Robert Tonyan Jr. in free agency right now, second, third wave free agency, mix it with a rookie that you can try to develop, to see if they try to do that. To me, I think that's been a priority for the 49ers for a while, and I think that they may finally have the roster room and the flexibility to try to make it happen this offseason. I still remember 2020 with Jordan Reed. That was going to be the 2 tight end set for the 49ers, 2 guys that could really be a threat in the pass game. But Jordan Reed, they took an injury flyer on him, and the downside of an injury flyer is that guy can get hurt, right? There's a higher probability that the injury actually does happen, and that exactly did happen with Jordan Reed back in 2020. So that was the 49ers' last big swing at it. I get it. They wanted Charlie Werner to develop into a better receiver. He didn't. They let him walk in free agency, and now they're going to see what they can do to fortify George Kittle at that tight end room. Kittle, who they're committed to through that restructure, the dead money would be massive next year. Now, you could always move on from a player. We saw it with Eric Armstead this year if you feel that he's not going to be consistently available for you. But the 49ers' intent is to have George Kittle as a foundational piece, and that's what that restructure meant. It gave him money to potentially sign some other guys, and that's why I talk about Uzomah. That is why I talk about Robert Tonyan, and that's why I'm talking about this draft. 10 picks for the 49ers. You're going to have to target them in a way to make sure that you maximize chances of making the 53-man roster. All right, this is it from Shaver. I grilled some really good pizza yesterday, and this is the grilling spot. This is why I've always wanted to do a little video from here. So you could take a look at the pizza. We had it at 750 degrees yesterday. Some mozzarella, some prosciutto, and shout out to Sam's Italian Market in Fresno for all the ingredients, including the dough. We will talk to everybody soon, maybe next time from San Francisco, or actually probably from Florida, off to the owners' meetings in Orlando. That's going to be the first 3 days of this upcoming week.